What's going on, YouTube? Got another knife review here for you. Today we're going to be looking at Calavera Cutlery, the Jeremy Robertson Custom El Patron. Jeremy is a knife maker out of San Diego, California, so not too far from where I'm at in NorCal. And this is just an awesome knife. I can't put it any other way. Really quick, just size comparison to these other knives, because these are all very, very similar knives. And you'd be wondering, why why do you have all these similar knives? Just because I like them, is the really God's honest truth. But in comparison, just to talk about, about a couple of comparisons on these knives here. On Jeremy Robertson's knife, you got a 3.75-inch blade of CPM 3V blade steel. This is actually one of the older, I don't know how much older versions of Jeremy's El Patron. The newer version that I've seen, most recently, Jason Nosad03, Nosad03, he had an El Patron, and it's got the engraving of the El Patron right here on the lock bar. So again, I like my blades sterile if possible, and so I like it that it doesn't have that on here. And then it's got a 3 screw clip, kind of like not an Emerson clip, but it's secured by 3 small screws here. And so I kind of like this look of the 2 screws and the thin pocket clip on this version of the El Patron. I like that a little bit more. I'll talk about this a little bit in a second, though. Compared to these other knives, the first thing or the glaring difference between this one and the rest of them is, first and foremost, all 4 of these knives right here. This one being the only mid-tech. These 3 knives here are all machine made. So the Hinder and the Chris Reeve knives are all machine made. Custom, they're not, they're fitted by their employees, but everything is, milled from a CNC machine. The VCP, I believe, also is milled from a CNC, but I think Les George himself puts these together, if I'm not mistaken, and please correct me if I'm wrong. But this one is a full-on custom from Jeremy Robertson, meaning he's a one-man shop down in San Diego. You can see his marking right there, Robertson, that little kind of flag thing. Reminds me a little bit of like a burger joint, old 60s burger joint. So you can't really see it too well with the acid stonewash. But that's the other big difference. You do have the acid stonewash on this knife, so you do have that much more, like, I don't know, I think the terminology being used now is that nuked out, that fallout kind of look on this knife. So kind of, like it's meant to be a beater knife, and that's really what I really feel about this knife. All these other knives, you have this nice beveling work all throughout the knife. This one is just very organic. The curves, even though there's slight beveling on here, it's all, you can tell it's all done by hand. It's all smoothed out. There's some uneven parts, and I think some people would complain that, oh, that's not as good, or it doesn't look as good. But, one, it's still very well done, but it's all by hand. So that custom work gets put into it. So the fact that it's all done by human hands is kind of nice. And this also is a very smooth folder as well, and just extremely solid. Like, you cannot muscle anything. I can muscle this. I can muscle play on this. Even on the Hinder, I can muscle. This one I cannot muscle any movement whatsoever on this knife. This one is just rock solid, like the definition of rock solid for sure. Flipping is not the best. I can, with a little bit of wrist flick, it comes out clean. I think it's just this knife though, because I've seen a lot of other El Patrons out there that flick out very easily. So I may send this one out to Jeremy to check out. You know, right here it's all loose, and so it flicks out. But once it gets to the end part of its opening, then it gets pretty tight. So I'm not sure what that's about. And again, I'll kind of talk a little bit about the screws on this one, because I haven't taken this knife apart. The only thing I've done is adjusted the pocket clip, and basically I was trying to push this over a little bit, and so I tried to loosen the screws on here and they stripped. And so I contacted Jeremy about that, and he said that these screws are not hardened for whatever reason. I don't know why. He said these style screws are not hardened, and so they're a little bit stripped. So I had to tighten them down with pliers, or either pliers or a vice grip or something. But I'm kind of a little bit worried about these screws. I don't want to strip these screws out and then, you know, void the warranty or whatnot. But either way, I think, you know, Jeremy would take care of you. I've heard really, really great things about his customer service. Seemed like a really nice guy when I you know, contacted him. So he was pretty forthcoming about his services and all that kind of stuff. So going back, you know, just into the breakdown design of this knife, you do have you know, these two pillars, standoffs. I'm not sure if they're titanium or not. I haven't checked, but my inkling is to say that they are. And then you know, at the very back there's nothing here, but at the same time these are such thick slabs of titanium, you can flex it a little bit, but not like it's going to make that big of a difference. And then you do have this pretty large lanyard hole, which I think you wouldn't have any problems putting, you know, even you know, full, you know, if the, you know, full what's it, paracord through here. I think you wouldn't have an issue putting that through in there. Lockup, like I said, rock solid. Lock geometry on this knife is great as well. Very straight. This lock bar doesn't move whatsoever, and I believe that the lock bar is carbonized as well. Over here you also have extremely thick, you know, as thick as these standoffs here, you know, a very thick lock stop right here, so, or blade stop pin. I keep forgetting what these things are called. Stop pin, I think. There's so many different ones now. And then you do have the option of doing dual thumb studs if you want, and you'd be able to access both of them, I think, pretty easily, although the lock bar is cut out a little bit higher on here, but I think you'd be able to access that without a problem. In fact, I think if you do order the double thumb stud, that Jeremy then will put a cutout in the lock bar. I think that's what I've seen on different ones out there. So a lot of different options. There's also a flipper variation of the El Patron, and then he also has kind of just design elements where you can put you know, milled patterns on the titanium. And I think now he's offering different materials, whether it's a micarta scale or a carbon fiber scale. Don't quote me on that, but I think that's what I had read somewhere. But according to his website, I don't see those different options. I see the side plate. You know, I see so it's basically a micarta inlay. So basically you'd have a titanium, the scale, and then a micarta inlay, similar to that of, on this side, you know, of the MPR right there. So not quite a bolster, but yeah. So those are some of the options. You know, on this one, these screws, they're pretty thick screws, and they screw all the way through to the titanium. So no female screws housing these, and then I believe that this pin here is then just press fitted. So no screws to speak of for the stop pin on here. Okay. So other than that, that's pretty much it. I mean, you know, with this knife, again, like I said, with the 3V blade steel and the acid stonewash that covers, you know, all the scratch patterns and marks, you got stonewash on the frame. You know, this is just screaming out to be a user. And if I were to go camping, This knife, I think, would be one of the first ones that I reach for, to have on me at all times. I'd have some other maybe camp knives or fixed blades. I'd definitely bring my, VCP fixed blade with me. But to have on myself, on my personal self at all times, I think I would bring this on a camping trip all the time. For regular city life, EDC, it would work just as well. But some of these other carries are a little bit more streamlined in pockets, but really not by much. Even the VCP at the head of the handle right here is probably a little bit thicker, a little bit wider. Yeah, you can tell it's a little bit wider right there, than the El Patron. So just as an overall EDC, extremely hard use knife, I think this knife would do great. So again, in comparison to the rest of these knives, overall looks to the amateur eye, I think they would think that it's just the exact same knife, but you do have a much thicker blade stock. I think this one's the thickest blade stock out of all 5 of these knives here, of CPM 3V. So if you guys know 3V, it can really withstand a lot of torture. There's also the D2 option, which is a little bit cheaper, but only by, I think only, actually I don't know how much cheaper it is. I think $75 or something like that. $50 or $75. So not that big of a difference. I would definitely spring for the 3V blade steel. Alright, so definitely check out Jeremy Robertson, the El Patron, a great knife overall. Definitely, I think, worth the price that he's asking, or at around $475 for this style blade. For the materials that you get over a plain Jane Sebenza, I definitely think it's worth it, and you get kind of the full care of a single custom maker. That's kind of a cool feature as well. Alright guys, that's my review of the El Patron by Jeremy Robertson. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys on the next vid. Take care. Bye.